right, you're listening to On the Waterfront with Coach. I'm Marina Hernandez, 137779, currently in ID.
I'm Coach Ed Barreras, 34844, 43 years in the industry, 15 years as a longshoreman, 15 years as a marine clerk, and 13 years as a foreman.
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of years.
It's a lot of time. I want to make it 15, 15, and 15. So you guys are going to have to put up with me at least for two more years, maybe a little longer.
We'll have to see what happens.
But
at least two.
At least 2 more years. For
I
sure.
feel like you got more than that.
I think I do.
I mean, do you want to?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our show that we created with in conjunction with Buddy, your son, my brother. And it's about
Thank you, Buddy.
Yeah, Buddy legitimizes us. Like,
for sure.
Yeah. Without Buddy, we would just...
It wouldn't happen.
No,
without Buddy, this program would not exist. Believe me.
Yes. And he got us this new microphone.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So this is just our show, just a recap about our life on the waterfront. We interview different folks from the waterfront and just how we see it through our eyes on the front lines and what really the nitty gritty is of what we do.
Right. The way it used to be and the way it is now. That's our goal. Give you a little background on the way the union was built and the way where the union is going. That's our main objective with our program.
Yep. Dad, we got our first gift. This is from Rusty. Irene, I think her last name's Rivera. So Rusty gave us this calendar. She made it herself with the photos. And this one to me, look, buddy, is like the most like, wow, because it shows just like the scope of the work. So I counted that it was 19 wide and then 9 high. And then how many bays are there? Who knows? So that's the scope of the work that we do.
And that's not including going down below deck, all the containers are on there. Rusty, thank you. Rusty, she worked with me when I was a Marine clerk, and she's a wonderful person. I love Rusty.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. Yeah. I did chat with her. So thank you for that gift. We welcome any gifts. Just putting it out there.
Yep.
Dad, you want a Tres Cochinitos gift card?
Yes, that would be nice. Tres Cochinitos gift card. That's my favorite place to go to.
Maybe we can get them to sponsor. That would be cool.
Yes, it would be.
Pay for some of this equipment.
Right.
So let's talk about our episode. We have your BFF Bear.
You guys are going to listen to Bear. You think you're going to be listening to Barry White. His voice is one of a kind down there. Bear's been my friend for a long time. I just barely found out his name. His name is Dennis. I never knew that. I just knew him as Bear. Anyway, Bear has been a longshoreman for a long time. And right now, currently, he's a supercargo at the cruise dock, H4, with one of my good friends there, Ernie. Between Ernie and Bear, they run that show. I mean, they've got that thing wired down. And if you're out there and you ever have a chance to pick up a job there at H4 with Ernie and Bear, it'd be an enjoyable day for you.
Or if you're going on a cruise out of Long Beach.
Or if you're going on a cruise, that's a perfect guy. You just go see Bear, and Bear will send you to the all the porters that are there. They're all my friends, and they'll make sure that your luggage gets aboard the ship and get off the ship.
Bring some cash.
Yes, bring some cash.
Yes. Well, do you remember how you met Bear?
Not really. I knew he used to be a lasher and stuff, but, you meet so many people down there. So I can't really tell you exactly when I met him, but when I first met him, I don't know how long ago it was, but, that Barry White voice, you can't forget this guy. And he just does a great job.
Yeah, he sure does. Yeah, very interesting. I'm glad he opened up about his time that he spent in prison a little bit, and then how the longshoring job gave him a second chance.
Oh yeah, what other job can you get where you're incarcerated for a while and you get out, and they welcome you with open arms. There's not too many industries that will do that for you, but luckily the longshoremen they give you chances, and in our future programs we're going to have a person that's charged of the drug and rehabilitation program, and that's going to be really interesting. We're going to get this person on and show you how if you have a drug problem or whatever, that the union will help you and try to rehabilitate you. So that's going to be an upcoming episode.
There you go, Dad. That's called a tease.
Yeah, that's a teaser. So, I mean, you got to listen to this. It's really a good program. It's not only for that the individual person, but you could help your children. If your children are struggling with a drug problem or whatever, they can help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And thank you, Dad, because you put a lot of work. I'm going to say this to you on mic, because you put a lot of work contacting people that you think will be really good. You're very thoughtful about the people that you want to have on the show, and we text about it a lot. So I think, we are putting forth a good effort, we're putting forth a good effort to make this a informative show.
Thank you. Real informative. I'm mentioning his name because I talked to him. He's going to be off for a little while. Ray Pearson, he's been a record keeper for about 30 years, and he does a great job. And when we have him on the program, he can answer a lot of questions. If you're short on your wages, or, he'll lead you in the right direction. That he does a great job. And then we're going to have a foreman on the program, Al Galupo. I've known Al Galupo for many, many years. He used to be working with me. He was a gear man when I was at Yang Ming, and him and I work together now, and he's real informative. He does a great job. He's well liked out there. A lot of people like him.
That's awesome. Yeah. So he confirmed.
He confirmed. Ray Pearson confirmed. So, but we're going to line up some more people.
For sure. And if you have somebody, and if you're listening and you have someone in mind that you would like to hear, that you think would be good for the show, just leave a comment, I guess, buddy, what do you think? Or email?
You can email us.
Okay.
On the Waterfront with Coach at Gmail.
On the Waterfront with Coach at Gmail. So email us if if there's somebody that you have in mind that you think would be a good interview. Not a dud. We need the good stuff.
All positive people on the Waterfront.
Yes, exactly. And I appreciate that people are leaving positive comments. There's not really negativity. So I appreciate that. Let's just keep this positive.
Exactly.
All right. So let's get to Bear's interview.
Okay, here's Bear.
Okay, I've got him filling. All right.
My name is Dennis Phillips. I'm sure a lot of y'all don't know that, but they call me Bear. I've been down here probably 30-something years, maybe 4 or 5 years as a casual. Then the rest of the time I've been in the union, work number 36897. I started in 13, and then I ended up in 63. Right now I'm a steady supercargo at Long Beach H4, the cruise terminal.
All right, Bear, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I've been watching y'all.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We got a fan. So you said you're a Pedro boy. So earlier you told me you're a Pedro boy. You grew up in Pedro. Did you do all the Pedro elementary, middle, high school?
My father actually was in the service. So when I was 1.5 years, I lived in Madrid, Spain. Then I think we went to Arkansas, Mississippi, France, Germany, and I ended up in San Pedro when I was 10 years old. So yes, I went to Barton Hill, Dana Junior High, graduated from San Pedro High School, and of course a little time at Harbor College.
How did you get into longshoring?
Well, I really couldn't tell you how I got down here, meaning I don't know if I applied, my father put something in for me, because to be honest with you, I probably was not in good shape. I probably was on drugs and all that stuff before I came down here. So I really don't remember.
Okay.
I know I got out and I got a letter say, come on down.
Okay, tell me more about you got out.
Well, once I got out, I think I paroled like May 89, and December 31st, 1989 was my first day of work, working with Jack McGee.
Jackie McGee.
And it was at ITS, I'll never forget. Back then, these new longshoremen had the advantage of having self-locking cones. Back then, we didn't. Okay, you put a roll down, then they put the swingmen up, and they got to put cones down. And then they put the next one up, and then they put the cones down. But you got to unlock, you got to lock. And I was petrified. I told Jack McGee, ain't no way I'm gonna do that.
You don't like heights then, right?
Well, I've learned to like it, but at the time it would just seem
It's pretty intimidating.
Yeah, at the first time ever, yeah, there's no way. I mean, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for Jack McGee, I may have been fired. But fortunately, I grew up with Jack McGee. He's my homeboy. Not only that, I think he's one of the best bosses because he's the type that will help you. You know, he would help you understand the job. And that's almost the problem with a lot of people down here. They don't let you understand. They tell you what to do, but they don't. Okay, now once I understand, well, like let's take the cruise. We take luggage off in the morning and we do this and do that. Once we understand, okay, then it's, right? But, just
There's
not
a
knowing nothing, right? Yeah, this is a whole bunch, go to work. There's a whole bunch of people just go to work. And, we got people from every walks of life, never saw anything like this, never know, the machinery and stuff,
Right.
And I think it's good to, when we get someone new or IDs or something over there at the cruise, we got the train going, we got the forklifts going, we got all this going on. So I tell the swingmen, hey, your ears are your best friend, listen to everything. You hear something,
Right. You talk about Jackie McGee. Jackie McGee got in when I got in 1982, and he's a great friend of mine. And, my number is 4844, and Jack McGee is 4842. So we got in, right back to back there. But he's a foreman at the rail now.
Evergreen. Yeah.
Good guy, Marina.
I don't think I've worked with him.
Yeah, really, really a nice guy. And he, he's a teacher. He would teach you what to do, not just tell you, but he would show you the right way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's one of the good bosses down here. Thank you for that, Bear. That's good.
Yeah, I really enjoy, the time I spent, when he was the boss of the LBCT. There's a lot of catch-up lashing back then, right. And at times, we get 20 casuals, 22 casuals, and we teach them. You go up there, you teach them, you tell them what to do, what don't do. I'll tell you one thing I think is a problem. You got a partner lashing, okay? Some partners like to work together. It's very possible a muscle may tighten up in your arm. It's very possible that anything could happen where you drop the bar.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't believe in working together. At least me and my partner, we work at this end, I work at that end, so.
Have you been injured up while you were lashing before?
I mean, who doesn't hit the elbow, hit the funny bone or, you're going to.
Fingers pinched?
Not so much that, but
that's me.
Maybe drop a turnbuckle on my foot or,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But nothing too serious then?
No, I've never been, I tore my Achilles.
Right. Wow. Talking about you working with your partner, but he works further away from you. Well, when I was lashing with my partner, Tony Raquel, years ago, and we were close together, I was taking the bar off, and the bar slipped off, and it was going to hit Tony, but I grabbed it, and I threw it this way. Well, what happened when I threw it, I tore my medial collateral ligament right here. So I had to have it's called a Tommy John injury. So, That's a good point he brought up. Don't work too close to your partner.
Dad, you don't have to brag about saving a life right now.
No, I didn't. But Tony would have got knocked out on that one. So I got the bar and threw it away, but burned out my elbow. But that's a good point. For all you guys out there, don't work too close together.
You know, this lashing nowadays are different than mine and yours.
Amen.
Okay, meaning there's not many where the bars are up anymore. The bars are like, you know, right, catwalks. Almost everything's catwalk, where you and I were deck lashers, you know.
Right.
So the odds of really hitting your partner now, you got to be really good to hit your partner, right? Because the bars go this way instead of straight up and down.
Yeah.
And back then, Evergreen had bars that they wouldn't even go in a hole, you know. You couldn't like let them go. They'll pop out on you,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Lashing was hard back then, right, Bear?
Yeah.
I remember
Bars.
Matson, got on a Matson ship, and the foreman there, Bobby Kennedy, what a great guy. Bobby Kennedy said, "Hey, grab those that oil can." Oil can? Yeah, there were oil cans. I go, "What's that for?" He goes, "Just bring the oil can. Come on up." Well, the lashing was so hard, the turnbuckles are so big and rusty. You had to squirt the oil in there to lubricate them to tighten them up. It was hard lashing, right, Bear?
Yeah.
Hard lashing. Now it's easy lashing.
Oh, I don't know. Let's get some of these lashers on and see what they
Well,
have to say.
We're gonna get these lashers now. They know the ships.
Yeah, that's true.
And they know what ship to take and what ship not to take. So when you see a bunch of casuals on a lashing job, you know it's a bad lashing job. Them casuals, I mean the professional lashers, and we're gonna have one on the program here. They know all the ships.
Yeah. And they have like their WD-40. They have like their little kits that they, you know, it's not an
Right.
oil can, but they do have WD-40.
Right.
But I'm going to let them defend themselves.
Right. Look at that.
But I will say we just talked to Pete, who was a casual when I was a casual. We used to have to for the casual test, we did a 3 high. You had to like walk it up and then hang it. Excuse me. Now I haven't seen a 3 high up on the ship. I haven't been up that often.
Because
But
we're
the catwalks.
Because of the catwalks. Some catwalks go to 3, 4 high now. So, you know, most catwalks are equivalent to 3 high. So by the time you lash it, you're lashing a 4 high can, you know, so.
You almost need more endurance to get up and down the catwalks
Yeah,
than you
yes,
need strength
yes,
to
yes.
lift.
Right. And Bear's talking about the heights. Back then, we never tied up. We just went up on the crane. They take you on the crane, you unhook everything. They had bridge clamps. You take the bridge clamps off.
Bridge clamps.
What's a
And
bridge clamp?
Bridge clamp. It ties in the containers together. You know, if
So
if there's a
got-
gap.
There's a gap, like, you know, the crane operator puts a can on, then he puts the next one on. Well, there's a little gap right there, right? So
Okay.
that bridge clamp's supposed to keep them together. Of course, ain't nothing in the world gonna stop a storm,
Right.
Ain't nothing in the world gonna, I've seen them come in with bays missing.
Really? You
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
That trips me out. Imagine those guys like out there on the ocean and just what they, sometimes you see videos of it, but
Yeah.
then when they come into port and the cans are tumbled, it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, you never tied off. Later on, we did tie off, but you get at the edge and unlock everything. And I remember at Matson and going up there, it was only 3 high, but the boss was up there and he was helping us, and then he would jump across the bay.
Yeah.
I go, but there were 45, so there was only.
Yeah, this not, the 45s is not.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah, there were 45s on a 45 together, but there was still a gap there. And the boss would jump over, and I looked at him, and he goes, "Come on." I go, "What?" He goes, "Come on." So you got to come on, right? Because they're not going to take you off and bring you over with the crane, so you jump over. Yeah, that was back in the day, right, Bear?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Notorious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Notorious for that.
Yeah. You just jump across.
So is that what you mostly did, Bear? Did you mostly lash, or what'd you do when you were 13, or what'd you like to do, I guess?
I guess when I first started as an ID, no, I didn't like driving UTRs. And honestly, I didn't like lashing. I didn't like it at all. We used to go to Merce, and I used to watch this one guy, John Buchanan. I call him Bam Bam Bigelow, the one-man band. I mean, he'd last a whole bay. He'd be the only one in the whole bay, last everything.
He was good.
Now, he
was
wouldn't,
tough.
He
man.
wouldn't tighten it, but he'd lash it, you know? And I'm like, wow, you know, so I think eventually, okay, my partner, Max Lopez. Max Lopez, he's a clerk dispatcher right now. And when we were IDs, guys on the whole board was trying to get Max. You know, that's saying a lot, right? When guys on the whole board trying to get an ID, that's saying a lot right there. They wasn't trying to get me, but they was trying to get Max, you know? So eventually we started lashing, and, you know, to stay out the UTRs, there was a lot of general back then, a lot of general, you know, lashing. We got a lot of general. And lashing, and we became known as ITS boys. Me, Max, your secretary treasurer, Jesse Lopez, ex-dispatcher Raul Castro, and a couple other guys. So, which means we got the drops. We got the lashbacks.
Sure.
Why? Well, here's what happened. When you don't lash a babe back, you stole the gear, okay? So at ITS, they used to, okay, we're not lashing babe 42, okay, all the bars got to go in a rack. They used to slide the bars across the lid, and the swingman stand there and catch them and put them in the rack. Well, a bar fell off the ship and hit a lady in the head. I haven't seen her since. And I'm talking about that's 28 years ago, right? So ITS was really adamant about how you stole the gear, how you, even when you drop, you know, people used to just get bars and throw them down. By the end, your bay looks like spaghetti, right? And which really makes it very, very hard for the dock boss, or I'm sorry, ship boss, hatch boss, or whatever you want to call them. Well, after the incident in ITS, we were forced to keep the bars underneath the cans. We were forced to, you know, put the turnbuckles on top of them. And, you know, for a boss's perspective, now he could walk down the bay and don't worry about a hazard, you know, especially a night side boss.
Right.
So it became that we got the lash. And then, you know, a lot of people don't agree with it. A lot of people didn't agree with it. You know, I've had people before. Can I throw names?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He said he was the lashing boss at Evergreen. He said, I don't play that shit. Okay, but he's constantly giving my lashing partner a ticket. Okay? You don't play that, but you're giving him the drop. You know?
Right.
What do you mean?
Right.
So finally I got fed up one day. I said, you know what? I remember when they paid you 10 hours for a lashback, and I only got paid 8 hours. What's union about that? He said, well, that's different. No, it's not. No, it's not. You got paid 10 because they perceived you as being a good lasher. Well, I couldn't get that. We had a contract, but they were pleased with the way we did our thing, and that's the way it is. Nowadays, they probably go by the numbers. We didn't have numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that, because I was confused by what you were saying, because, yeah, it's by your numbers, not like you pick your job. Was it not like that?
Well, yeah, no.
Job?
What I'm saying is right now, when you get dispatched, your ticket got a number on it.
Oh, right, yes.
Okay? Now, one thing I learned from that is, from ITS, I don't care what the numbers are, the boss has a right to pick who he wants to. That's why he's a boss.
Yeah, the foreman still has the right.
He has the
still has the right.
foreman.
The numbers, the boss still has the right to put the guys where he wants them.
Right.
We had arbitrations right at ITS. We didn't go on the ship. It was just, it was but the way it was. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people like, hey, you should be fair. So I say it was fair. All these crane operators, all these people related and all this. Is that being fair? Shit don't start down here, start up there. Let's fix that. And then maybe we could do that. But it'll never be fair because there's family down here. Mm-hmm. It'll never be fair.
Mm-hmm. Bear, let's change something a little bit. How about when you became a dispatcher? Now, tell us a little bit about the dispatching.
Well, I think I made dispatcher behind ITS.
Okay.
Because some people couldn't get a drop. So actually my whole crew made dispatcher at the same time. Me, Max, Ungi, and Raul Castro.
Okay.
We all made it. But when I did, actually my partner came up to me and said, I'm going to be a dispatcher. We both ran, we both made it.
Okay.
And once I made it, it was something else because, of course, when I started dispatching, there was no computer. So everything had to be written on a chalkboard, had to be allocation. You had to write out the tickets. So if APL needed 16 swimming, you had to sit there and count out 16 ducats. And then write them on the form 3 and circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Everything was done in pencil.
Now, an allocation, what he's talking about, the companies place the order, and there's a time that they place the order. Say ITS places, we need so many guys, and they call it 9 o'clock. So they should be the first one. Right, Bear? If I'm wrong on this, correct me.
The earlier ones.
Right,
for example, rails. For example, like rails, that should almost be like the first one. Yard work. I also was a dispatcher in Local 63 for one day.
Okay.
I only stayed one day because I was probably already steady at ITS.
Right.
They did not have a choice on the night side for clerks. And I didn't want the hassle. I did not want the hassle.
Because they went by allocation,
They
right?
went by allocation, and of course you're going to get accused of this, everything. Anytime somebody does not get what they want, they're going to accuse you of something. So therefore, I just said, hey, I'll stay at ITS.
So now it's by hours, low man gets a choice of their job.
Yes. Since then,
right?
Since
But
then,
before
clerks
it was-
have a choice, yes.
Right. Before it was just allocation. You had to take that job.
Oh, you had to take that job.
Yes.
So like off the top. We call that off the top.
Off the top. Right
okay.
there?
Yes.
Off the top. But now, low man, what job do you want?
Oh, okay. And that was just for the clerk jobs.
That was clerk on the night side.
On the night side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now in 13, now clerks didn't have double back for a long time. And, 13 we had it. And, 13 was experience. It's an experience. If anybody want to run for political office or get involved with the union, I would recommend they volunteer for the grievance, run for the e-boards, and then you setting yourself up to be dispatcher, because at some point you're going to be helping people, you're going to be in grievance and, some people are going to be getting hammered for something, hey, wait a minute, so like I said, a lot of it down here depends on who you know, who you know. You could do something and get away with it. I'd do it, I'd get in trouble, So, that's one terrible thing about this union, But it's a great union, In my opinion, it probably saved my life. Who knows where I would have been, what I'd have been doing.
Well, tell me more about that because you said that, were you in prison before?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, I was in, of course, I'm in there for addiction, not nothing like,
No armed robbery
yeah,
or something like
none of that.
You were
you
addicted
know.
to drugs?
Yeah, who wasn't?
Really?
Yeah.
Was very prevalent?
Back in the 80s, it was very, very, yes. It was
Okay.
everywhere. Yeah, it was everywhere. And yeah, I had addiction, it was, I think if, when I first moved to San Pedro, I saw a lot of hypes, people that shot dope.
Okay.
Now I could say, I'll never do that. But I didn't get to see a crackhead. I didn't get to. We was the first, So in other words, I think what I'm saying is if I'd had an opportunity to see a crackhead, I probably wouldn't have messed with it, I probably, other than that
You
time
didn't know
in
where
my
that
life.
road was going to lead.
Yeah, yeah.
But so you're saying that the union at that time, when you got out of prison and stuff, they said, "Come on, Bear, you can be a longshoreman." They didn't look at your record or nothing like that. But now, they're more involved as far as it'd be harder now to get in than when you got in. Is that correct for me to say?
I'm gonna say this here: 9/11. It took probably about 5 years after 9/11 for them to implement the TWIC card. Okay, 4, maybe 5 years. Okay, the East Coast, they implemented right away. Why? Well, they were already suspicious of them smuggling dope. They were already in the midst of them doing background checks on everybody down on the East Coast because, the amount of cocaine or whatever coming in off the ships on the East Coast, So they were already in the midst of doing that. They weren't in the midst of doing that here. So when 9/11 came, they implemented that, and there's no felons on the East Coast. There's no felons. So hypothetically, if they would have implemented that here, you see George Bush and we'll just say Bush. He scares people. Oh, Iraq got weapons of mass destruction, so we vote for this stuff, right? We vote for Homeland Security. We vote for this and that. And, in the end, it could have messed some of us up, right? So here I am now, 30 years later, I'm a viable, pay my tag, I appreciate the opportunity, So if they would have implemented that right away, I probably wouldn't be down here on the waterfront. Right. I would thank some of my ex-brothers like Mike Mitri, for helping with that. Because at the time when Mike Mitri was president, he was going up to Washington, D.C., he was doing that. So now the TWIC card, the background check is almost the same as any other job. So if you got a felony, you cannot be convicted of a felony within the last, it's either 5 or 7 years. Oh, 7.
Okay.
And you had to been out of prison about 5 years. Are there people down here that, yes, there are. That's been in the industry, went to prison, came back, and they didn't sit out about 5 years, but,
Right.
But like Coach said, they tightening the noose,
Right.
Yeah, we used to have so much, Let's look at our deceased, okay? There was no age limit on deceased, okay? There was no age limit. I'm 68 years old. If I passed away tomorrow, nobody would get my book, okay? PMA eventually is gonna take, they're trying to take everything. They're trying to take everything. So right now they got an age limit on it. They call it a grandfather clause, right? So if you're a certain age, you're considered a grandfather, so no one gets a book anymore.
After age 62.
Yeah.
Yeah, 62, right. Back in the days, I remember that there's a few guys that were locked up for a short time, and they would pay their dues. They'd keep their dues going, so when they got out of being incarcerated, then they had their book. They
Walk
kept their
right
book.
back in here.
Walk right back in. I don't know. I think that'd be a little bit more difficult
It's
now.
just a little harder
Yeah,
now.
I
It's a
don't think.
little
But
harder.
back then, that happened. That happened.
You know, we got a lot of different stuff in this industry. So, crane operators, you know, I mean, we'll just keep it amongst ourselves,
Yeah.
but go on start into something else.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you were just saying that this longshoring gave you the opportunity to change your life after you got out of prison, because who knows where you would have been if you didn't have this job.
You know what? I'm going to say this. You can only get off dope unless you're ready. And you can only take advantage of the opportunity unless you're ready.
Right.
You know,
How did you know you were ready?
the only thing ever tackled me is dope. You know, I've worked at McDonnell Douglas, Todd shipyards, Long Beach Naval shipyards. I've never, since 14 years old, immigration, you know, the only thing that ever brought me down was dope. And brought me down and, you know,
How'd you kick it?
you know, when I first this is how powerful dope is. When I first went to prison, I don't think for the first 6 months, I didn't think about nothing but hitting the pipe. Okay? Nothing but. Probably after the next 6 months, after that first 6 months, then I started thinking about, you know, my kids, my wife, you know, a woman, you know, right? So that's almost how long that takes to get out your system.
It has that strong of a grip on
Well,
somebody.
it does. Well, it's mental. You know why I say it's mental? Because when I was in the county jail, okay, I'm coming off from smoking a ton of cocaine, and I'm in jail, and they bring in a heroin addict. Now I'm in there. You know, man, I need a hit. You know, this heroin addict, he laying on the ground. So I told myself, I ain't got no problem. He got a problem, you know. So, you know, I think it was more mental, you know. And so once we get that mental out of us, then, you know, like I said, it's what you want, you know. That's really the only thing ever really brought me down, you know. And I've always thought about, you know, like, let's say you want to quit smoking cigarettes, you think about it, but when you're going to actually do it, you know? So, you know, I think eventually one day
He's doing a good job now, Bear. He works with a lot of people that on the cruise terminals, you know, all the passengers and everything. And I sit there with him and talk to, and he talks to everybody there, and they love Bear.
They love you down there, Bear?
They go down there and,
Well,
you know, there's some people that take multiple trips that they know him by name. Hey, Bear, and everything. They
Oh,
come in.
that's so
The little
cool.
kids, he's there, Bear. He's always saying, I bet you're about 12 years old. And he guesses the age almost within 1 or 2 years of all the kids. And
It's your special talent.
I've been on fire lately.
yeah,
I've been on fire lately.
that job where he's at right now is perfect for Bear. You know, it was made for him.
You know, one thing about that job is, you know, I lived in Mississippi. I lived in Arkansas. When I lived in Arkansas, you couldn't go in a restaurant and order no food. You had to go to the back door and get your food. You couldn't go to a hotel. When we left from one place to another, we had to go to a police station, spend the night with my dad with his uniform on, with his Purple Heart. My dad was in the Army and the Air Force, you know, and one thing I will say, he's never taught me to hate, you know. He's never taught me to hate. So me, with Coach commenting on what Coach said, you cannot discriminate against someone when you've been discriminated against.
Yeah.
But he does a great job there. He really does.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun dealing with people.
He
you
enjoys
know.
his job.
So you're a chief clerk. What do you do there?
Supercargo.
Supercargo. Okay, tell me, what does the supercargo do on the cruise terminal?
Every terminal needs a supercargo. Every vessel that comes in from San Diego to Washington needs a supercargo. Okay, whether it's just every single vessel that comes in, right? Just like you need a ship boss or something of that nature. So what's a supercargo? Well, I'm a clerk, and well, if I was at a container yard, then I would be putting a work in the computer or depends on if I have a chief or not, right? Before we used to have to do it by paper. I'd give you a book, I'd highlight it, this goes over here, this goes over here, go over here, pick these cans up. You used to have to highlight books, and then you started putting work in the computer. That's why you were able to look up there and, okay, pick this can up or pick that can up, right? So that would be one of the things of the supercargo. Now the cruise.
The cruise is another.
I'm gonna just say one thing. Hats off to Ernie Chavez.
Ernie
Chavez got that running like a machine. So
He sure does.
So if you ask me what I do, I stay out of Ernie's way.
Ernie Chavez has been doing it for 19 years.
He's so good at it.
Oh,
He feels like it still feels like it's fresh to him, like his safety speech and just the way, like his demeanor there is very carefree and like just he's stern, like but he's just got a very positive presence.
He's got a good team with him. The swingmen, they go there, and the heavy lift guys go there, and then Bear's there, and they got a good superintendent, Ian. He does a great job, or Joe. But Ernie runs a tight ship. So between Ernie and Bear, they run that place.
Got it.
They run that place. But Bear, tell Marino, tell the audience what actually you do in the morning. I know what you do, but would you let them know?
So a clerk's responsibility, supercargo. So depends on which ship. I either get one clerk, like today I only got one clerk, the Radiance. Tomorrow I'll get two clerks because of the amount of people, right? Tomorrow I'll be a 5,000 passenger ship. Sunday will be a 5,000 passenger ship. So essentially I go in, of course, do the payroll. Ernie, we'll figure out what the sorts are. And here's the sorts. You got early debark, right? You got people that got flights, 11 o'clock, right? So we need to get them off. We need to get them to the airport as soon as possible. So we'll hypothetically, the sorts might be 1 through 8 and then 9 through 12 and, then that's how we want them off. So I'll give the sort to the clerk. And what the clerk does is stand at the hook and make sure that these are coming off correctly. If they're not, and let's say he gets out of 17, but we're still doing 1 through 8, well, we'll put that to the side. Let's get all this priority off.
And those are all sorry to interrupt, that's all the luggage that's coming off.
Yeah, all the luggage coming off.
They call them cages.
Yeah, now over in San Pedro, the cages come off and the forklifts pick them up. So it, to me, is hazardous as hell, because you don't know how good of a driver this guy is. Is he a brand new driver? But anyway, it looks like this over there, forklifts, and you're dodging. You're actually dodging, or you're standing out the way.
Right.
Standing out the way, you might not be doing your job right. Because you have to tell these drivers where to take the luggage. Now, Carnival, there's jitneys. We call it like a train, right? It's really ran like a top. It's really ran perfect. And the cages come off, jitney pulls up, we roll the cages on the cart. Hypothetically, there's eight for every jitney.
Eight cages.
We call them a train, yeah. Mm-hmm. So depending on how many passengers, how much luggage is coming off, would be depending on how many jitneys we order. Today we had 4, tomorrow we'll have 5, and Sunday we'll have 5, you know. So it depends on that. So that goes in, and then they actually drive into the dome where swingmen set it down. Now, us as clerks, our responsibility is to walk through to make sure that the swingmen got the 1s and the 1s, the 2s, and like that, you know.
The sorts.
Now, once we do that, then the fun begins.
Yep.
You know, once we do that, then we go out front, basically, right?
Well, then the passengers start coming off, and then
the passengers come off and the new ones come on. So, you know, you're just like, yeah. So once they come on, that's all we do. We sit there. We have manifests, you know, if there's 2 of us, there's 2 people sitting out there. If they only give me 1 clerk, there's only 1 of us sitting out there. And we just, you know, it's pretty fun, you know. Sometimes you're busy, sometimes you gotta, and don't get, you know, what's really hard is people that can't speak good English. But I pride myself on trying to spell their names, and so I asked her, okay, you don't have boarding pass, you don't know your room. Okay, what's your last name? And then they'll say this, and then they'll start spelling it. And I said, well, I didn't ask you to spell it, you know, because I want to challenge, you know, and you know what?
you're a problem solver. You're like, I got this.
Well, I think when you do and you get it half-assed right, I think they sort of
appreciate it.
smile, you know. You know.
Yeah.
Is there any? Oh, go ahead, Dad.
No. I was just going to say that he's perfect for that job, and he works with the porters and everything, and it's all good. He does a great job.
Is there anything you notice about? You mentioned a lot of Indians travel. I'm assuming people from India travel during Christmas time. Are there any other trends that you notice from passengers on the ship? And then my follow-up question is about people that have. Do you know who's been arrested on the ships? Because they got to come off separate.
Oh, we see them come off
in cuffs.
Actually, I was right there talking to the old man. Right, that's the guard. Right. Okay, and that's right. That's sort of right there. And I see the police walking off, and they had about a 12-year-old girl, you know. And I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And then about 2 minutes later, they walked off with her mom. See, so they probably didn't want her to see her mom in handcuffs, you know. But yes, they come off they come off in handcuffs. And
Do you know what they usually do, or it's not? Or you just got to figure it out, got to ask around?
sometimes it could be fighting on the ship. A lot of times it's warrants. You might have child support warrants. It could be, they check you when you come off. One particular time, these guys came off. These 2 guys jumped in the Uber. These other guys, come on out. Bottom line, they had a fight on the ship. This one guy outside the Uber called his friends. He had about 15 people waiting on him. These 2 dummies got out the Uber. And let me tell you, they got beat down. Chains, they got stomped. Even women was involved. If it wasn't for a porter named Doug, what's his last name? Simone
Rank.
Doug Rank, right? If it wasn't for him dragging him out of there, which he probably put himself, you know, right in the line of fire, but you know, he drug him out of there, you know, but they was split heads, you know.
Wow.
Bear, do you have any advice on the new people that are coming in the industry, you know, or?
Yeah, I got a couple things.
Okay.
One time I was at NYK with you.
Okay.
They took me out the empties, and they put me in a trance. Hell, I'm going to throw a name. He called and had me go in the office. And the first thing he told me was, hey, you coming to the trans for the deal. I said, I ain't the boss. I go where the boss tell me to go. He said, well, I'm going to tell you right now, ain't nobody going to help you. So what he's saying, he didn't think I could keep up chalking and walking, one. Two, he's saying anybody in the transes aren't going to help me. So I look at it like back in the day when we were casuals, there was no such thing as not helping somebody. There was no such thing as not helping a female when you got a lash back. There was no such thing as not helping an old man. Not that I needed the help, but this what our industry was. And, you know, for him to come, I just couldn't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
I really couldn't believe it. And then we had he was swinging at ITS once, now supercargo. And I had an old man about 70 years old as a clerk. And no, it's not a job. Maybe I was out of line to ask him. But I said, you mind putting the mags on for the clerk? Because there ain't no way that old man could have done it. He nutted up on me. Oh, he went off. It's almost like the UTRs had him waiting for me. You know, hey, he gonna walk up, he gonna ask you to put me. You know, it's almost, that's how the way it seemed. He nutted up. Of course, you come at me wrong, I'm gonna come at you wrong.
Right.
About an hour later, one of the clerks said, hey, Bear, somebody wants you in the office. I go to the office. He said, Bear, don't hurt my son. I said, you mean to tell me that's your son? As many lashing bars that I done threw for you and your friends and, you know, and he can't, you know. So I straight told him, I said, look how you are, man. Ask your dad, I helped him. We got in together. We family. To come down here with that type of attitude really is no good. Yeah. Yes, it was not his responsibility. Yes, it was not, I guess you could say he probably shouldn't have put him on. But Coach knows, I know, that the swingman used to put mags on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask him to do that. If the man wasn't 70-something years old, you know, I wouldn't have asked him, you know. So for the new people, you know, respect your elders, first of all. You know, your elder may talk to you and you might think, oh, this old man talking to you. He got a lot of knowledge to teach you. He got a lot of knowledge, you know, and you know, respect that knowledge, you know, listen to him, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, Bear, for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Bear. Also, I think don't mess with Bear, I feel like is another something else that he wanted to add there.
Well, Bear, thank you for coming and joining us. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Well, you know what, Coach? You're also one of the better bosses on the waterfront.
Appreciate that.
Now, you may not be the tallest, but you are one of the better bosses. I like the way you respect people. I like the way you treat people, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
All right, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bear.
Thank you for listening to On the Waterfront with Coach.
And for more content, you can follow us on our Instagram page, On the Waterfront Pod, and you can listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
We'd appreciate if you subscribe and follow.
And thank you lastly to our partners at the Arts and Cultural Alliance for letting us use their beautiful building.
Thank you, Uncle Harry.